In this lesson, we discuss setting up sales line events for lean manufacturing in Microsoft Dynamics 365 for operations. The sales line event creates the pull for final assembly, packaging, or simply shipping out of the sales orders. When a sales order is entered, the Kanbans needed to produce or withdraw the goods to satisfy the customer order are created. These Kanbans can be created automatically upon sales order entry, in batch through a batch routine, or manually released from the sales order. These settings can be configured on the Kanban rule. Consider the scenario of a manufacturing process based on event Kanbans with a sales line event. As a result of research and observation, Pierre and Eduardo have decided that a certain product is produced in high variance, and they would like to configure the product to be a pure make-to-order or MTO, or pull-to-order PTO case with an event Kanban based on a sales line event. In this case, sales lines directly trigger the event Kanban to be manufactured. Pierre has set up the production flow activities, item coverage, and Kanban rules for this scenario. Susan, the order taker, enters the sales order for the product, which loads automatically onto the final assembly work cell. Ahmed transacts against the Kanban and manufactures the product to the sales order. These steps are performed by the various roles to handle this scenario within Dynamics 365. Pierre or Eduardo create production flow activities and sales line event Kanban rules. Susan enters sales lines for an item, and then enters a warehouse that is replenished through an event rule. Within the system, the sales line creates one or multiple Kanbans, depending on the sales quantity and the maximum quantity of the event Kanban. Also within the system, the created inventory receipts that are related to the Kanbans are reserved or marked to the sales line. Now, either Ahmed, Shannon, or Lars processes production that is required for the Kanban. Consider this scenario, where a fixed quantity Kanban is set up for a certain product to hold a buffer inventory within the finished goods warehouse to cover a calculated amount of customer demand, but an exceptionally large order is placed by a customer. In this situation, instead of depleting the entire buffer inventory and risking being reactive to the market for other customers, the exceptional demand is treated as a sales line event and becomes a make-to-order scenario with an event Kanban. Pierre and Eduardo have calculated the historical shipments on average and create a buffer stock in the finished goods warehouse for this product. The supermarket is replenished through fixed quantity Kanbans that cover the average need of 2 shipping days plus security stock. They also set up an event Kanban against the sales line event with a minimum event quantity for the exceptional orders. The minimum event quantity defines the size of an exceptional order. Pierre has set up the production flow activities, item coverage, and Kanban rules for this scenario. Susan enters the sales order for an exceptionally high quantity for the product, which consequently loads automatically onto the final assembly work cell. Shannon transacts against the Kanban and manufactures the product to the sales order. This diagram depicts the scenario. These steps are performed by the various roles to handle this scenario within Dynamics 365. Pierre and/or Eduardo create production flow activities, a fixed quantity Kanban calculated using historical average demand, and an event Kanban rule against a sales line event with a minimum event quantity that represents an exceptionally large sales order. Susan enters sales lines for an item, and then enters a warehouse and location that is larger than or equal to the minimum event quantity on the event Kanban rule. Within the system, the sales line creates one or multiple Kanbans, depending on the sales quantity and the maximum quantity of the event Kanban. Also within the system, the created inventory receipts that are related to the Kanbans are reserved or marked to the sales line. Eduardo sees the unplanned Kanban jobs on the Kanban scheduling board and plans them by distributing to specific periods. Susan uses delivery date control functionality, capable to promise, to determine when all event Kanbans that are related to the sales order will be available to confirm the order to the customer. Shannon then processes the production that is required for the Kanban. For Kanban rules that use the event method of replenishment, we can configure the settings for events. To set up sales line events, we navigate to Production Control, Periodic Tasks, Kanban Quantity Calculation, Kanban Rules. Next, we click New in the Action pane to create a new Kanban rule. On the Kanban Rule Fast tab in the Type field, we select Manufacturing. In the Replenishment Strategy field, we select Event. In the First Plan Activity field, we select Speaker Test and Packaging. This Kanban rule has only one activity, so we leave the Multiple Activities checkbox unselected. In the Register as Empty field, we select when handling units are received. On the Details Fast tab, in the Product Selection field, we select Product. In the Product field, we select item number 4401, ProSwear 50-watt car radio. This product has only one product dimension, color. In the Color field, we select Green. We will leave the effective date set to today and have no expiration date. In the Unit of Measure field, we select Days, and we enter 1 in the Lead Time field. On the Events Fast tab, the Event Type group displays information about the types of demand that we can configure as events. We select one of these types. Sales Event. This type of event is used to replenish demand from sales orders. Bottom Line Events. This type of event is used to replenish demand from picking lists that are based on production orders. Kanban Line Event. This type of event is used to replenish demand for material that is used in downstream Kanban jobs. Stock Replenishment Event. This type of event is used to replenish demand from minimum stock levels. For this example, we'll configure a sales event. In the Sales Event field, we select the method that defines when Kanbans are created. Not active. With this option, Kanbans are not created. Manual. With this option, Kanbans are created manually. Batch. With this option, Kanbans are generated when pegging events are processed. Automatic. With this option, Kanbans are generated when the demand occurs. Automatic with CTP. With this option, Kanbans are created and loaded to the Kanban schedule. We select Batch. The available options vary with the type of event. For bottom line events, only the not active and automatic options are available. Kanban line events can be set to not active, manual, batch, or automatic. Stock replenishment events can be set to not active or batch. In the minimum event quantity field, we can enter a minimum quantity that is required on the source of demand before event Kanbans are generated for this rule. We'll enter 3. In the Event Kanban Handling Unit Must Be Received On field, we select the status of the source of demand that determines when material handling units of the referenced event Kanbans must be received. None. If sufficient inventory is available, the material handling units do not have to be received. Picking. Material handling units must be received before the source requirement can be prepared. Start. Material handling units must be received before a Kanban job or production order can start. Finish. Material handling units must be received before a production order can be reported as finished. End. Material handling units must be received before a Kanban job or production order can be completed. We'll select Picking. We can select the Delete Unused Event Kanbans checkbox to cause event Kanbans that have a handling unit status of Not Assigned to be deleted when the source of demand is registered as completed. We can select the Source Requirement Reservation checkbox to override the current settings for inventory reservation for sales orders and bill of material or BOM lines. The Source Requirement Reservation field can be set to Never or Always. We select Never when reservations for all reference sales lines and production BOM lines are to be made manually. We select Always to automatically reserve inventory for all reference sales lines and production BOM lines. If this option is selected, the sales line and/or BOM lines fields will be enabled. In this example, only the sales lines field appears because the BOM line event field is set to Not Active. If one or both of these fields are enabled, we use them to select the method of automatic reservation to use. When sales order lines that reference this Kanban rule are created, the setting in the sales lines field overrides the default value from the sales header. When production BOM lines that reference this Kanban rule are created, the setting in the BOM lines field overrides the default reservation setting. We will leave Never selected. Finally, we click Save in the Action pane to save the new Kanban rule, and then close the forms.